There is something wrong with the land along Route 66. Most people never noticed. Eyes on the road, but step off the pavement and it starts. First, the sound, a deep rumble that rolls up out of the open ground. No storm, no engine, no source anyone can name. People have heard it for generations. Then the scars, holes torn into the desert by things that fell from the sky. Ground that once ran with fire. Then the forests. Every tree turned to solid stone, older than almost anything still alive on Earth. And the rivers, old enough to outdate every map, now dying in the sand before they reach the sea. Millions made this drive, almost none of them stopped. Whatever this road was hiding is still out there. And what's waiting at the last stop, no one ever warned you about. A sun-scorched desert along Route 66 tests every living thing, with blistering heat, dry winds and long empty miles where survival feels uncertain. Mojave National Preserve spreads across this unforgiving terrain, where black volcanic cones, cracked lake beds, and forests of twisted Joshua trees create a scene that feels almost otherworldly. Three separate desert ecosystems collide here: the Mojave, the Great Basin, and the Sonoran, creating a biological crossroads found nowhere else in North America. Along the old highway, hopeful travellers once crossed this harsh expanse, turning isolated outposts into lifelines of fuel, food and rest in a place that offered little of either. But the ground shows little mercy, and stories linger of stranded drivers who underestimated the heat, their abandoned cars still rusting in the sand as quiet warnings. Even here, animals have evolved for these extremes, with kangaroo rats living without ever drinking water, and desert tortoises waiting out the worst heat hidden beneath the ground. As tourism grew, traffic reshaped the region, pulling ravens and coyotes toward the roadside, where opportunity and danger arrived together. At night, the preserve transforms, with cool air bringing out silent hunters like kit foxes, while distant trains and highway sounds blur into a strange, almost spectral presence. Some travellers swear they have heard low, mysterious rumbles rolling across the open desert with no clear source, a sound locals link to shifting sands and restless ground. The sound seems to drift across the desert, leading toward a place where the sand itself begins to move and speak. Kelso Dunes. These towering dunes rise high above the desert floor, their smooth slopes hiding a strange secret that only reveals itself when disturbed. With every step, the sand can suddenly come alive, releasing a low, booming sound that rolls across the open desert like distant thunder. The effect happens when dry grains slide together in perfect sync, vibrating as one and turning simple movement into a powerful natural sound. Route 66 helped turn this remote place into a destination, drawing curious travellers who climb the dunes just to feel and hear the ground respond. But the soft slopes can be deceptive, and some hikers have struggled in the heat and shifting sand, leaving behind stories of exhaustion and sudden rescue. Even wildlife keeps its distance from the moving slopes, with small animals staying along the edges where the sand stays firm and silent. Past the restless sand, sturdy figures emerge against the horizon, the desert's own free-roaming burros. These animals are descendants of abandoned pack animals, left behind when mining routes faded, yet they adapted fast to a life with almost nothing. They survive by eating dry grasses, thorny shrubs, and even woody plants most animals avoid, grinding through tough fibres like living machines. Water is so rare that they can travel far across open deserts to find it, memorising hidden springs and returning to them with surprising accuracy. Their strong sense of smell helps them detect moisture underground, sometimes digging into dry soil to reach damp roots or buried water. Some travellers leave food behind, and that small act can change behaviour, drawing burros closer to people and putting both at risk. Free-roaming burros often stay in tight family groups, with a watchful adult keeping guard while the rest feed, ready to bunch together and face danger as a united front. Yet in this harsh desert, few predators challenge a full-grown burro, as a powerful kick can send even a determined hunter running. As they move across the desert floor, the ground beneath them begins to darken, giving way to a field shaped by fire. Sema Volcanic Field. Black lava spreads across the desert in frozen waves, as if the earth once melted and then stopped in place mid-flow. Scattered across this dark terrain, steep cinder cones rise suddenly, each one marking a violent burst from below that reshaped the desert surface. In the heat, the black rock absorbs sunlight and releases it back, creating pockets of intense warmth that push both animals and travellers to their limits. Early explorers and drivers crossing nearby routes often feared this place, with stories of engines overheating and tyres failing on the sharp volcanic rock. Even now, the rough ground can tear through gear and boots, catching the unprepared off guard in a place that looks still but acts harsh. Yet life finds a way, with small plants rooting into cracks in the lava, slowly breaking it apart and creating tiny islands of food for insects and birds. These patches attract desert animals, turning the black rock into a quiet feeding ground where movement is quick and survival depends on timing. Then, almost without warning, the rocks come alive with movement as Chukars race across the steep ground. These birds were never meant to be here, brought from faraway mountains, yet they quickly took over terrain that pushes most animals away. Built for dry, rocky slopes, they grip loose gravel, with ease and move across harsh hillsides where even careful steps can slip. When danger strikes, they do something unexpected. They run uphill at full speed instead of flying, leaving predators and even people struggling to keep up. Their main food comes from an invasive plant that has spread across huge areas of desert, giving them an endless food supply. As travel routes opened access to these remote areas, hunters followed, and chasing Chukars across steep ground became a tough and sometimes risky pursuit. Past the harsh gravel and stone, the land loosens into flowing sand, forming towering dunes that seem to move with the wind. Dumont dunes. These massive dunes are constantly reshaped, with strong desert winds pushing sand into new forms, so the ground here never truly stays the same. Visitors come from far away to ride across the soft slopes on off-road vehicles, and the remote desert fills with speed and sound. But the shifting sand can be dangerous, hiding sudden drops and causing crashes that leave riders stranded in a place where help feels far away. Even wildlife struggles here, as few animals cross the open sand, choosing instead to move along the edges where food and shelter are easier to find. Beneath this shifting surface, another survivor waits out the heat below ground, slowly emerging when the time is right. The desert tortoise. Here, it survives by spending most of its life hidden in burrows, escaping heat that would overwhelm almost any other animal. Its greatest trick is hidden inside its body, storing a huge supply of water that it slowly releases, allowing it to go unbelievably long without drinking. But this survival system has a dangerous flaw. If frightened, it can empty that water in panic, and without it, survival becomes almost impossible. Encounters with people have led to silent tragedies, where curious hands pick one up, not knowing they may have just triggered a fatal response. With more travellers reaching these remote desert areas, road traffic has increased, adding another threat, since slow-moving tortoises often cannot escape passing vehicles. Around its burrow, smaller desert creatures begin to stir in the heat, including dark, glossy insects built for the same extreme world, darkling beetles. By day they hide under rocks or bury themselves in sand, avoiding heat that would quickly dry them out. Once darkness falls, they emerge as the desert's cleanup crew, feeding on dry plants and scraps that almost nothing else can use. When threatened, they perform a strange defense, lifting their back end into the air and releasing a sharp, foul spray, part warning, part survival trick. It looks almost like a tiny handstand, but the smell is enough to stop many predators in their tracks. Growing numbers of desert travellers turned focus toward creatures like these, highlighting how even the smallest life forms support the desert's survival. From the Mojave, Route 66 entered flat, open land under huge skies, Most travellers passed through without looking up, but those who turned south found something that stopped them cold. Palo Duro Canyon suddenly opens in the earth, revealing towering red cliffs, hidden caves, and twisting paths carved far below the surface. Over time, water and wind worked together, carving layer after layer, and turned solid ground into steep walls and tight gaps. At the bottom, a quiet river cuts through the canyon floor, slowly shaping the land with every flow, even when it looks calm. Even today, strong winds lift fine dust from the canyon walls, wearing them down grain by grain, continuing the slow carving process right before your eyes. Flash floods still rush through the canyon without warning, reshaping the ground in hours and catching hikers off guard in dangerous conditions. Yet the steep drops and loose rock have led to accidents, with some visitors underestimating how quickly conditions can change in this massive canyon. Growing highway travel brought more visitors to the canyon, making it a hotspot for hiking, camping, and photography. Rising above it all, one towering formation stands out against the sky, drawing every eye upward: Lighthouse Rock. This tall sandstone tower was shaped slowly by wind and water, leaving behind a narrow column that looks almost too thin to stand. Its layered colours reveal different periods of erosion, each band showing how the canyon was carved down step by step. Hikers travel long distances just to reach its base, following trails that became popular as nearby highways brought more visitors into the canyon. The climb can be risky, with loose rock and steep paths causing falls for those who push too far, trying to get closer. Some visitors say the rock seems to glow at sunset, while others claim strange shadows move across it when the light fades. Down on the canyon floor, quick movement catches the eye as fast birds dart between brush and rock, greater roadrunners. Many expect a cartoon bird, but the real roadrunner is faster and sharper, sprinting across open ground to hunt insects, lizards, and other small prey. Its body has a clever system near the eyes that removes excess salt, letting it eat prey. Others cannot without losing precious water. Increased travel through these desert routes brought more eyes to this bird, creating a favourite sight, though some fall victim to fast-moving vehicles they try to outrun. The desert keeps revealing surprises, and not far ahead, the ground itself tells of a violent impact frozen in time: Meteor crater. This massive hole was not formed by erosion or collapse, but by a blazing space rock slamming into the earth and exploding with incredible force. The impact hit so hard that rock at the surface was instantly shattered and thrown outward, leaving a near-perfect bowl carved into the desert. For years, people believed it was volcanic, until closer study revealed shocked rock and metal fragments, proving it came from space. The blast changed everything in an instant, wiping out life in the immediate area and leaving behind a harsh, exposed environment. As nearby highways brought steady streams of travellers, the crater became a major stop, with visitors drawn to stand on the edge of something created in a single violent moment. Yet the open rim has seen its share of danger, with falls and risky climbs showing visitors how unforgiving the crater still is. Across the sunlit rocks, quick flashes of blue and green signal the presence of eastern collared lizards. During breeding season, males glow with bright turquoise and blue colours so bold they look almost painted against the red stone. When danger or prey appears, they launch into a sprint on two legs, running upright like tiny dinosaurs across the rocks. Their bursts of speed allow them to chase down insects, and even other lizards, in sudden explosive movement. Hunters like these do not hesitate, and when food is scarce, they may even eat smaller members of their own kind. They also depend on stillness, freezing on sun-warmed stone, where their colours fade into the surroundings just enough to avoid detection. Travellers passing through nearby desert routes sometimes catch them in these frozen moments, motionless and watchful on the rocks. But quick movement near roads can be deadly, with some lizards darting into danger before they can react. Even so, they continue to rule these rocky outcrops, perfectly adapted to heat, speed, and surprise. The desert slowly changes into open grasslands and old rocky hills, where Wichita Mountain's Wildlife Refuge protects wildlife rarely seen along the highway. These granite peaks are among the oldest exposed rocks on the continent, pushed up from far below the surface and softened over time into rounded, weathered forms. Travellers passing through expected empty plains, but many stopped in surprise as large grazing animals moved across the hills, especially Texas Longhorns. These cattle once came close to disappearing, nearly replaced by other breeds, until a small protected herd preserved the original line. Their ancestors arrived long ago and spent generations roaming freely, becoming hardy enough to withstand heat, drought, and sparse grass. They graze on rough prairie plants and travel long distances in search of water across open ground. Their massive horns can spread wider than most people are tall, forcing careful movement through tight spaces and acting as powerful defense against threats. When travel routes moved across the region, the longhorn became a symbol of the open plains, appearing in roadside stops, signs, and local culture. Some still wander near roads, and drivers who misjudge their slow pace risk dangerous collisions with them. Yet in this refuge, they continue much as they always have, moving with the seasons and shaping the grasslands. In the short grass, Tiny holes mark hidden homes, where burrowing owls peek out and scan for insects and small prey. Unlike most of its kind, these birds hunt in full daylight, standing upright at their burrow like tiny guards watching every movement. They depend on abandoned tunnels dug by prairie dogs, using someone else's home as a safe place to raise their young. To catch food, they do something unexpected. They place animal dung near their burrow to attract beetles, then snatch them up with quick movements. If danger follows them underground, they make a sharp, rattling hiss that sounds almost exactly like a rattlesnake, which tricks predators into backing away. This kind of sound mimicry is rare in birds, and it helps the small owl appear much more threatening than its small body would normally allow. More roads brought more people into these grasslands, where some stopped to watch them, while others unknowingly disturbed nests hidden beneath their feet. Above the ordinary ground of New Mexico lies something far bigger below, a network of giant underground rooms known as Carlsbad Caverns. These enormous chambers formed when acidic groundwater slowly dissolved the rock, carving out hollow spaces beneath the desert over long periods of time. Drop by drop, mineral-filled water still shapes the cave, building hanging formations that grow slowly from the ceiling, like stone icicles. Some chambers are so large and dark that sound fades quickly, creating an eerie silence that can feel almost overwhelming. Early explorers told stories of strange noises and sudden drops into darkness, with some never returning after venturing too far inside. As activity in the region grew, lights and paths revealed more of the hidden system, uncovering a fragile underground world where even small changes can affect the balance of life. In the fading light, the entrance erupts with movement as Mexican free-tailed bats take flight all at once. They stream into the sky in big waves, fanning out across the desert night to feed on moths, beetles, and other airborne insects. As long-distance migrants, they travel across entire regions each year, tracking warm seasons and reliable food sources. Just inside the cave entrance, swallows nest in the twilight zone, where sunlight fades into darkness, sharing space with hundreds of thousands of bats in a fragile coexistence. These birds fly with sharp precision, snapping insects mid-air with quick beaks, feeding near the entrance where insects gather, and avoiding the deeper cave where bats dominate. They build small mud nests stuck to the cave walls, holding tightly, even in constant movement and noise around them. Growing activity in the region increased disturbance along these cave edges, where sudden noise or movement can cause birds to abandon nests without warning. Further along the highway, travellers reached one of the Southwest's most puzzling places, a canyon empty for nearly 1,000 years, yet still demanding attention. 'N' At Chaco Canyon, massive stone buildings rise from the desert floor, stacked in neat rows with hundreds of rooms, built with a precision that still holds strong today. Some structures align with the sun and moon, suggesting deliberate planning guided by the sky rather than chance. Long before modern roads, this canyon served as a major trade hub, where shells, feathers, and turquoise passed through networks of connected communities before arriving here. The wide, straight paths helped link distant settlements, allowing trade, ideas, and culture to spread across the region. Then, for reasons still debated, the people left, and the canyon fell silent, its buildings standing empty under open skies. Later travel routes brought attention back to the site, drawing interest that helped protect it, but also raised concerns about damage to fragile stone walls. The path moves into a region known for its towering red rocks and forested canyons, where sunlight paints the cliffs in bold red tones across Sedona. These formations were shaped slowly by wind and water, carving soft sandstone into tall spires, steep walls, and narrow ridges over long periods of time. Shifting desert conditions continue to wear the rock down, with rain cutting channels and wind smoothing edges grain by grain. The result is a natural wonder that looks sculpted, with towering forms rising in patterns that feel almost unreal. This unusual setting caught the attention of Hollywood, turning the area into a backdrop for classic Western films that brought its dramatic scenery to screens around the world. The area became one of the most photographed places in the country, with artists and photographers drawn to the ever-changing light across the terrain. Road trippers and hikers turn these once quiet desert paths into some of the most travelled scenic routes in the southwest. Nearby Red Rock State Park preserves the region's sandstone formations, winding creeks, and desert wildlife in one place. Oak Creek flows through the park, creating a rare green corridor where trees, birds, and small animals gather in the middle of dry red rock terrain. Unlike other areas nearby, this park limits activities, keeping out bikes and horses to reduce stress on wildlife and protect fragile ground. That choice keeps the area unusually quiet, where the sound of water and birds replaces the constant movement found elsewhere. Animals respond to this calm with deer, birds, and smaller creatures, using the creek and shaded areas as a safe refuge. Just outside this quiet preserve, a massive sandstone formation dominates the view, its rounded shape giving it the name Bell Rock. The rock rises in smooth layers, each one shaped by wind and water, stacking into a form that looks almost too balanced to be natural. Trails wrap around and climb partway up its sides, drawing people who want to stand on its slopes and look out across the red desert. Some say the rock feels different the higher you go, with stories of strange sensations and sudden bursts of energy spreading through the body. This idea turned Bell Rock into a famous stop, with people coming not just to hike, but to experience something they cannot fully explain. Yet the steep, sloping surface can be risky, with slips and falls happening when visitors push too far on the loose sandstone. Rising nearby, another towering formation captures even more attention, known for both its shape and its mystery, the Cathedral Rock. Its steep, jagged spires rise sharply above the valley, creating a shape that many say resembles a giant stone cathedral. The climb to its upper ledges is short but intense, with smooth rock and sudden drops that challenge even careful hikers. Stories surround this place, with some claiming they feel a strange energy here, as if the ground itself is quietly pulsing. This belief turned the area into a well-known gathering spot, drawing people who come to sit, reflect, or search for something they cannot explain. Growing popularity brought heavy foot traffic, wearing down trails and forcing efforts to protect the fragile rock surface. Accidents have happened on the steep slopes, where one wrong step can quickly turn into a dangerous fall. Even with the risks, the formation continues to attract visitors, standing as one of the most recognised landmarks in the region. In the low brush around the base, small movements reveal a rare bird living quietly among the shrubs, the black-capped vireo. Marked by a bold black cap, bright white eye rings, and soft green feathers, it disappears easily into the surrounding vegetation. Caterpillars and other small insects make up most of its diet, picked carefully from leaves with quick, precise movements. Life here is fragile, since changes to the land and loss of thick shrubs can quickly reduce the places it can safely live. The route crosses into a stark desert of black lava, where a dark volcanic cone rises beside the road at Amboy Crater. This cone formed when molten rock burst from far below the surface, piling up around a single vent and spreading lava across the desert floor. The surrounding ground is covered in jagged black rock, sharp and uneven, where old lava flows hardened into twisted shapes. Walking here feels otherworldly, with dark surfaces absorbing heat beneath an endless desert sky. Breakdowns are common here, where extreme heat and sharp volcanic rock can shred tyres, leaving drivers stranded in the middle of the empty desert far from help. Early travellers depended on a small roadside stop nearby for fuel, water and rest, making it a vital checkpoint before the next long stretch of desert. Some stories tell of strange lights seen near the crater at night, flickering across the lava fields without a clear source. The harsh black surface of the ground gives way to the colourful badlands of the Little Painted Desert, where erosion has sculpted layered hills of red, grey, orange and pale purple. Wind and rain have shaped the terrain over long periods, cutting soft clay into ridges and folds that continue to shift gradually with each passing season. Up close, the formations appear fragile, breaking apart easily into dry fragments, while from a distance they resemble a painted surface that changes tone with shifting light. After rare rainfall, water briefly runs through dry channels, turning the desert floor into temporary streams that disappear almost as quickly as they form. Long before modern highways, indigenous and trade routes crossed this open expanse, connecting distant communities across the high desert. Later, Route 66 funneled travellers through nearby towns like Winslow, making the overlook a natural stop for wide views of the Painted Desert region. Today, regional driving routes still include the area, sustaining a quieter form of tourism shaped more by scenery than infrastructure. For many Route 66 travellers, it feels like a behind-the-scenes version of the Painted Desert. Open, uncommercialised, and still shaped more by geology than signage. In the middle of these painted hills, sharp tapping sounds carry through the dry air, where Gila woodpeckers drill into cactus to create safe nesting spaces away from predators. These birds choose thick cactus walls because the soft inside keeps their eggs cool, even under the desert sun. Their diet is surprisingly varied, snapping up insects, sipping nectar, and tearing into cactus fruit for both sugar and water. Around roadside stops, they scavenge scraps from passing travellers, but this proximity also brings vehicle strikes and loss of nesting sites as old cactus are damaged or removed. While these birds stay busy above ground, something far slower and more dangerous hides beneath the surface: Gila monsters. These heavy-bodied lizards spend most of their lives underground, avoiding the extreme desert heat of the Little Painted Desert. They store fat in their tails, allowing them to survive long periods without food in an environment where resources are unpredictable. When hunting, they rely on ambush rather than speed, feeding on eggs, small animals, and whatever prey they can overpower. Their eye-catching orange and black pattern serves as a warning, a signal of venom strong enough to deter most predators. Though venomous, they are slow-moving and typically avoid confrontation unless threatened, making serious incidents with humans extremely rare. Occasional roadside sightings along Route 66 attract attention from travellers, sometimes leading to brief but cautious encounters. The highway continues into a mix of rocky slopes and coastal air, where the Santa Monica Mountains stand at the gateway to the Pacific. Chaparral-covered hills open toward the ocean, as shifting moisture, temperature, and food sources force wildlife into constant adjustment. This meeting of desert heat and cool ocean winds creates a sharp environmental transition, where distinct ecosystems overlap within a narrow corridor. Human access reshaped the region, compressing wildlife into narrower corridors as animals adapted by moving at night or crossing roads in quieter intervals. Even in heavily used areas, small animals persist among rocks and brush, moving through gaps in human activity. Occasional sightings of mountain lions near developed areas reflect this overlap between open country and settlement, though most remain out of view. Among these subtle movements, western fence lizards appear on sunlit stones, continuing a quieter layer of life within the coastal hills. Here they spend hours soaking up warmth, using the sun like a natural battery to power quick bursts of speed. Beneath its otherwise muted colours, a bright blue belly remains hidden until revealed during territorial standoffs. These lizards snap up ants, beetles, and spiders with fast, precise strikes, acting as tiny pest controllers along busy hiking trails. Around popular access points, they have grown used to human activity, often freezing in place as people pass just inches away. Away from the busy trails, a different world forms where water becomes the main force, drawing migrating birds to Bosque del Apache National Wildlife Refuge. This wetland lies along a major migratory flyway, guiding birds across the continent like an invisible highway in the sky. Birds are pulled here by shallow water, thick plant growth, and safe resting areas that offer both food and protection during long journeys. As flocks arrive, the sky fills with movement, with wings beating in waves that seem to roll across the horizon. Route 66 helped turn this once quiet refuge into a well-known stop, bringing photographers and travellers eager to witness these massive gatherings. With more visitors came challenges, as sudden crowds, noise, and nearby roads can disturb resting birds or lead to collisions during low flights. Even so, the refuge carefully manages water levels and habitat to keep this critical stop alive for species that depend on it. At sunrise and sunset, the air erupts with sound as thousands of birds call out at once, creating one of the loudest natural scenes in the desert. Among the most unforgettable of these arrivals are tall, grey birds with long legs and ringing calls, sandhill cranes. Their bodies are covered in soft grey feathers, with a bright red patch on the head that stands out even from far away. These birds travel long distances along major flyways, stopping at Bosque del Apache to rest, feed, and regain strength. In these shallow waters, they feed on roots, grains, and small creatures, probing the mud with slow, careful steps. Their calls are loud, rolling, and almost trumpet-like, carrying across the marsh in a way that can sound both eerie and exciting. Living in large groups helps them stay safe, but sudden disturbances or nearby roads can cause panicked takeoffs that sometimes lead to collisions. At night, they gather in shallow water, standing together where predators have a harder time sneaking close. When startled, entire flocks lift off at once, wings beating in powerful bursts that fill the sky in seconds. Soon the wetlands are overtaken by a different energy, where snow geese launch into the sky all at once, forming fast, shifting clouds of white. Their bright white bodies flash in the sun, with black wingtips creating sharp patterns that ripple across the sky as they turn. These birds move in tight groups that twist and bend together, almost like a single living shape that never breaks apart. Their calls are loud, high, and constant, filling the air with a chorus that can sound like a storm made of the sound. Here, they feed on leftover grains and plant roots, using the wetlands as a vital stop to rebuild energy. Some flocks grow so large that they darken the sky for moments, creating a sudden shift from light to shadow. Nearby roads and power lines create hidden dangers, where fast-moving flocks sometimes collide during low flights across the refuge. As seasons change, they rise in massive groups and leave the wetlands behind, bound for northern breeding grounds. Across the desert, a powerful river has carved a giant curve into towering rock walls at Horseshoe Bend. As the land gradually rose, the Colorado River maintained its winding course and cut deeper into the rock, creating a rare geological feature known as an entrenched meander. The result is a near-perfect horseshoe-shaped canyon with sheer cliffs dropping hundreds of feet to the water below. Far beneath the overlook, the river continues carrying sediment through the canyon, slowly reshaping the land over time. Easy highway access helped make the site one of the Southwest's most visited viewpoints, drawing travellers from nearby towns and beyond. That popularity comes with risks. Strong winds, steep drop-offs, and unstable edges have contributed to serious accidents along the rim. Elsewhere across the southwest, wind shapes bright gypsum into rolling white dunes at White Sands National Park. Unlike ordinary sand deserts, these are formed from gypsum crystals left behind when a large inland lake evaporated within a closed basin surrounded by mountains. Because the minerals cannot wash away, wind continually grinds and redistributes them, forming hills that slowly migrate across the desert floor. Rain can briefly harden the surface into a crust before sun and wind break it apart again, further reshaping the terrain over time. As the dunes advance, they bury vegetation and reshape the desert, making the terrain appear constantly in motion. The bright surface reflects much of the sunlight, keeping temperatures lower than in many nearby deserts and creating visual distortions that make distances difficult to judge. Growing tourism brought more visitors to this remote region, increasing both appreciation for the land and pressure on its fragile ecosystem. Even so, a variety of specialised animals have adapted to the pale terrain and rely on camouflage to avoid detection. Among the fastest of these survivors are long-eared runners that streak across the white dunes, jackrabbits. A lighter coat helps them match the pale ground, allowing them to disappear into the surrounding area with ease. Their long ears help regulate body temperature, releasing heat and keeping them cool under the desert sun. When they run, powerful hind legs launch them into sharp bursts of speed, using quick zigzags across open ground to escape predators. They feed on desert plants and can survive with minimal water, drawing moisture directly from vegetation. Along roads tied to historic Route 66 travel routes, these fast sprints occasionally bring risk, as vehicles can appear suddenly across their path. Beyond the pale dunes, a sea of grass spreads across the plains, where wind moves through tall grass, and herds once roamed freely at the Tall Grass Prairie Preserve. Once part of a wildlife corridor where animals moved freely across open land without fences or roads, this preserve now protects one of the last major stretches of that original prairie. Beneath the surface, grass roots reach more than 10 feet down, storing most of the plant's life underground, where fire and drought cannot easily destroy it. The highway brought roads, towns, and fences that broke up these natural paths, changing how animals move and survive across the plains. In this sea of grass, one of the most unusual birds emerges, known for its strange dances and booming calls, the greater prairie chicken. Their bodies are rounded and patterned in brown bars, helping them disappear into the tall grass when they freeze in place. At dawn, males gather and inflate bright orange neck sacs, producing a low, hollow sound that feels like air being pushed through a giant bottle. Mixed into that sound are rapid foot stomps and short, sharp clucks, creating a strange rhythm that carries far across the open prairie. These displays turn the grass into a stage, where each male competes for attention in a fast, almost comical dance of hops and spins. Long ago, these birds were so common they were widely hunted, but their numbers dropped sharply as grasslands were cleared and roads spread across their range. Today, they rely on protected areas like the Tall Grass Prairie Preserve, where careful land management helps them survive in a changing environment. As heat rises over the prairie, another hunter takes to the ground and air, searching for prey with painful precision: tarantula hawks. Despite the name, they are not hawks at all, but large wasps, named for their habit of hunting tarantulas like a bird of prey. Their metallic blue bodies and bright orange wings make them stand out clearly against the grass, almost like a warning sign in motion. The female tracks down a tarantula, delivers a precise sting that paralyzes it, then drags the still living spider into a burrow. She lays a single egg on the spider, and when it hatches, the larva slowly feeds on its host, while keeping it alive as long as possible. The sting of this wasp is ranked among the most painful in the insect world, described as sudden, intense, and impossible to ignore. Even so, adults mostly feed on nectar, drifting between flowers across open prairie areas, shaped by roads and development in the region. Close to this prairie, bands of coloured badlands cradle fallen tree trunks that have turned to stone, now protected inside Petrified Forest National Park along the old highway. Long buried under ash and mud, the logs slowly soaked up mineral-filled water until each cell of wood was replaced by crystal, leaving no living tissue behind. What remains is rock that still pretends to be wood, with growth rings, bark, and even old cracks preserved in frozen detail. Inside many logs, minerals paint the stone in reds, yellows, and purples, so a broken stump can look like it's hiding a slice of rainbow. Some trunks lie shattered across the desert as if a whole forest collapsed, paused mid-fall, and never got the chance to stand again. Flash floods and sharp storms still carve through the soft ground, sometimes cutting far enough to uncover new fossil pieces hidden for ages. When Route 66 ran through this country at the height of the road trip era, it turned the fossil beds into a famous roadside stop and a tempting source of pocket-sized souvenirs. Tougher rules and patrols now protect what's left, after years when theft and damage threatened to strip entire hillsides of their stone logs. In park archives, boxes of conscience letters tell of people mailing back stolen chunks of wood, blaming a streak of bad luck on the pieces they carried home. Scattered across the badlands, the remaining stone trunks form one of the greatest concentrations of petrified wood anywhere on Earth. Each colour inside these logs acts like a code. Whites and greys signal quartz, reds and oranges iron, bold purples manganese, and blacks carbon or iron-heavy minerals. Some trunks are so wide that a grown adult standing beside one looks like a child pressed against the side of a fallen giant. Route 66 once carried travellers right past these stone forests, helping turn this remote fossil bed into one of the classic roadside stops of the American West. That same easy access also meant more pressure on the park's resources, as roadside development, traffic, and casual collecting chipped away at the most exposed logs. One of the strangest sights here is Agate Bridge, a single petrified log that spans a natural gully like a stone beam laid across a dry stream. The log was treated as a natural bridge for years, so the park eventually added a concrete support under it, keeping a fallen Triassic tree propped up with modern engineering. Even today, new cracks and exposed faces on these logs keep revealing fresh flashes of colour, as weather slowly peels back more of their mineral interior. Just beyond these stone trees, the ground rises into broad sweeps of layered colour that form the painted desert. Along the northern edge of that forest, these badlands run beside the old Route 66 corridor, where drivers once watched the colours shift from their car windows without leaving the road. Iron minerals do most of the work here, while manganese and trace elements add extra hues, painting bands of red, orange, purple, grey and white that shift as the sun moves. The same hills can look soft and pastel at dawn, harsh and high contrast at noon, and almost completely different again under stormlight or sunset. Under your feet, the clay is the real trickster, swelling like wet concrete when it rains, and grabbing boots so tightly that walking can turn into a slow, sliding struggle. Once the surface dries, it shrinks, cracks and pulls apart, quietly nudging rocks, fossils, and even surface tracks sideways or downslope over time. On a nearby rise, the Painted Desert Inn, built from local petrified wood and later run as a Fred Harvey stop, was designed as a meeting point between road culture and desert geology. Travel routes brought huge numbers of visitors, fueling motels, trading posts and gas stations, while also pushing more people onto fragile ground easily damaged by a few careless steps. Down on that same crumbly soil, tiny engineers work day and night under the heat, hauling seeds and shaping tunnels, red harvester ants. Here, they clear near-perfect circles of bare ground around their nest mouths, tossing out pebbles and seed shells like a tiny construction crew. Each worker carries seeds many times its own size back underground, building food stores that help the colony survive long dry spells when almost nothing fresh is available. Their digging loosens packed clay, letting water sink in more easily and quietly changing how plants and grasses take root across the badlands. Old highway routes cut through this desert, adding more road edges and disturbed soil where these ants can readily settle and reshape the ground. Their painful stings and aggressive defence keep most animals, and careless feet, at a distance, yet they remain a key food source for reptiles and birds that learn how to hunt them safely. Past the badlands and their ant cities, the path leads back to flowing water and shaded cliffs at Starved Rock State Park, a classic side trip from Illinois, Route 66. Here, melting Ice Age glaciers and powerful glacial meltwater floods once roared across the plateau, slicing narrow sandstone canyons into rock that had stood flat for ages. Those floods carved sheer walls, hidden side ravines, and bowl-shaped basins where small streams now drop as waterfalls after heavy rain. The Illinois River still works at the base of the bluff today, slowly wearing into the cliff while forests cling to the ledges above. As highways expanded across Illinois, this carved river valley became a roadside escape, one of the first canyon and waterfall parks many Midwestern drivers ever saw. With that popularity came more trail erosion, crowding, and occasional accidents on slick rock and icy stairs, turning this peaceful canyon park into a place where rescue crews stay busy. After river-cut cliffs and forested bluffs, the route reconnects with the southwest, where Sunset Crater Volcano lifts a charcoal-coloured cone out of a pale, dusty plateau. This volcano is geologically young, so its lava fields still look fresh and sharp, with dark cinders and jagged rocks that have barely started to break down into soil. When it erupted, ash and cinders buried nearby forests and fields, forcing indigenous communities to abandon farms before later returning to plant in fresh, mineral-filled soil. Even now you can see old lava, frozen mid-flow, like a black river that suddenly stopped moving and hardened in place. From this vantage, it feels like it's paused in time as ponderosa pines and hardy shrubs edge into the rough ground, their roots slipping into cracks where thin soil has just begun to form. Small animals and insects use the broken lava for cover, hiding in cool gaps during the day and slipping out at night to feed along the softer edges of the flow. From this single cone and its frozen lava, the story of fire in the southwest widens into a whole maze of black rock and collapsed tubes at El Malpais National Monument in New Mexico. Here, entire rivers of lava cooled into jagged basalt so sharp and broken that early wagon routes and livestock trails often had to bend around it, rather than attempt to cross straight through. The same sharp rock could tear at horses' hooves and wagon wheels, turning short crossings into slow, exhausting slogs along the edges of the lava instead of over it. Even modern road builders skirted much of this bad ground, leaving large blocks of lava fields almost untouched, like an obstacle course no one wanted to pave across. The rough surface offers almost no soil and very little shade, so plants and animals cling to cracks, cave mouths, and cooler pockets, using the broken rock as both barrier and shelter. Storms add another hazard, dropping rain into uneven lava that can twist ankles, flood low pockets, and turn simple hikes into serious rescues. Beneath these black flows, some of the strangest features of all run out of sight. Long, hollow tunnels formed when lava kept flowing inside a cooled crust known as lava tubes. These tubes began as fast-moving lava rivers, where the outer skin cooled first, while the glowing centre kept sliding forward like melted chocolate under a hard shell. When the last of that molten core finally drained away, it left behind walkable tunnels, some tall enough that a person can stand upright, inside a space carved entirely by flowing rock. Inside, conditions are completely dark and uneven, which is why rangers require helmets, multiple light sources, and sturdy footwear for navigation. Even with guidance, loose rock and sudden drops have caused injuries and rescues, underscoring how unstable these formations remain. Step back out of the dark and climb to higher ground, and a nearby rim viewpoint, Gila Overlook, reveals just how far these lava fields and tubes spread across the plateau. From up here, the lava looks like a frozen Black Sea, with cracked waves of rock flowing around older pockets of forest and sunburnt grass. Modern roads now curve around the roughest flows, turning this overlook into a pause where travellers can safely gaze down at the bad ground that once halted earlier routes. Along the open flats below, one of the most common shapes on the ground isn't a rock at all, but a small bird built for bare, empty country, the horned lark. This little bird is one of the most widespread songbirds across North America, so common that many people have walked or driven past flocks of them without ever knowing they were there. Here they fit the scene perfectly, feeding on tiny seeds and insects while keeping low and flat, like the land itself taught them how to hide. The real shock comes at nest time. The female scrapes a shallow bowl in the ground and sometimes rims it with neat stones, like paving a tiny front porch. As farms spread and roads multiplied along routes like 66, open habitat grew patchier, and their numbers quietly declined amid the rise of gas stations, motels, and neon signs. That mix of traffic, bright signs, and love of strange roadside sights is exactly what helped turn one dark hole in the ground along Route 66 into a superstar cave stop, Merrimack Caverns. Long before tour buses and bumper signs, these chambers were a Civil War gunpowder factory where workers scraped minerals from the walls to feed a war fought mostly out of sight above. Guides love to point at a thin, glowing sheet of rock called the stage curtain, a single formation so huge it looks like someone pulled a stone theatre drape across an entire room. Near the entrance, a statue of two armed cowboys keeps the Jesse James legend alive for visitors, even though historians doubt the gang ever actually used the cave as a hideout. As cars rolled back onto Route 66, many families left the cave dreaming of the next stop ahead, where road and water would meet along the wide Rio Grande in New Mexico. Here the river doesn't just cross the desert, it runs right down a slow-moving crack in the planet, a giant rift where the crust is still gently pulling itself apart. As the ground stretches, blocks of rock sink and tilt, and the Rio Grande carves a long valley through volcanic cliffs, sandy flats, marshes, and snow-fed high country. That unusual setup made the river a natural route long before the Mother Road, and Route 66 simply plugged car traffic into a corridor already used for ages by people, wildlife, and traders. With the road came cameras and guidebooks, and quiet bends where herons hunted and beavers worked became popular spots for rafting, birdwatching, and roadside river views. There is a shock hiding in this busy picture, because in some summers the river now breaks into dry, dusty reaches in places where older locals remember steady water sliding past. Farms and cities now draw so much water upstream that in some years the Rio Grande fails to reach the sea, leaving one of North America's great rivers broken into a dotted line. Even so, every wet year and every flash flood still sends fresh power down the rift, cutting the banks a little sharper and carving the volcanic floor a little deeper. Following that cutting edge north, it drops into one of its boldest scars, a narrow volcanic chasm where the river cuts straight through black basalt, the Rio Grande Gorge. From the rim, the canyon feels less like a valley than a split in the world, its walls dropping so sharply that bridge railings seem almost too small for the fall below. Beneath traffic and camera clicks, the river runs in a tight ribbon, its cool water sheltering trout as bighorn sheep pick their way along ledges that seem impossible from above. The basalt walls are not blank. They hold petroglyphs and carved symbols left by people who crossed this land on foot long before paved roads or highway bridges. On stormy days, thunder rolls through the gorge like a drum. Cliff swallows cling to rock, and lightning flashes bridge and river in one hard white burst. Stories of daredevil stunts, risky climbs and tragic falls surround the gorge, where the same sheer drop that draws photographers and filmmakers also lures people to the edge of safety. Raft guides below and drivers above share the gorge with raptors that launch from the cliffs, riding updrafts as they scan the space between rock and water for prey. As the sun falls and rock cools, shadows along the rim and river become hunting lanes for insect-eating birds, drawn to this narrow corridor of moving air and water. And once in a while, along these open river edges, a bright yellow tropical kingbird wanders through, snatching insects over the water. It's really a visitor from the tropics, a bird common in Mexico and Central America that has only recently begun appearing more often along the Rio Grande's cottonwoods. Perched on a high branch or power line, it watches the river like a tiny air traffic controller, then rockets out to grab flies and beetles in midair before snapping back to the same spot. For such a small bird, it has a huge attitude, rushing hawks, crows and other raptors many times its size, yelling and dive bombing as if it thinks it owns the whole bosque. High in those same trees, it builds an open cup nest of twigs, grass and plant fluff, and the speckled hatchlings huddle inside while both parents take turns zipping out to catch fresh insects over the river. As hiking, biking and birdwatching grow along these river corridors, surprise sightings like this turn quiet, overlooks and bridges into hotspots for rare bird chases and excited calls. Following a tiny kingbird bossing the Rio Grande skies, the next stop on this road of surprises is a stone giant that seems to boss the whole horizon, Shiprock. This is the frozen throat of a volcano, a hard plug of magma left behind after wind and rain stripped away the softer rock that once covered it. From afar, it looks like one clean spike, but as you get closer, it breaks into sharp fins and walls, like a stone wave caught mid-crash across the desert floor. For many DNA families, Shiprock is a sacred story, made solid, a great bird turned to stone, so climbing its walls is now off-limits for both respect and safety. Early climbers tested it anyway, leaving bolts, broken gear, and a harsh record of what happens when crumbly rock, huge drops, and human pride collide. Highways pushed more travellers through nearby towns, and postcards, trading posts, and pullouts turned this volcanic neck into a must-see stop for artists and visitors. Around its base, ravens ride the updrafts, raptors hunt the open flats, and small mammals and reptiles slip between basalt blocks, using the cool shade of the rock like one giant broken umbrella. Sudden storms and lightning that hit the tallest point around turn it into part grand landmark, part quiet hazard on the edge of the road. After the dark spike of the volcanic neck, Cove Arch feels softer and rounder, a pale stone doorway cut straight through a cliff. Wind and sudden rain have sanded this opening for ages, carving a smooth curve out of what was once a solid wall of sandstone. Stand beneath it, and the sound changes. Your voice bounces, ravens croak from the rim, and even a light breeze seems to funnel through the gap. People who come for Shiprock often wander over here too, treating the arch as a quiet bonus stop and a natural frame for the sky and distant desert. Lizards, small birds and bats turn its shade and ledges into tiny homes using the stone door frame as cover, lookout, and nighttime launch pad all at once. From so much dry rock and open sand, the Lake of the Ozarks feels like a different world, a flooded valley packed with boats, bluffs, and forested shorelines. This huge lake began as a plugged river in steep Ozark hills, and new highways quickly turned that backed up water into one of the Midwest's favourite playgrounds. Quiet coves filled with docks, marinas and cabins, and once remote hills became weekend country for families towing boats and coolers. The same roads that fed diners and neon motels also funneled in. Anglers, divers and cave fans chasing fish, flooded hollows and limestone caverns just beyond the shoreline. More boats brought more noise and heavy wakes, and once slow shores now take rolling waves that chew at banks and jostle nests tucked in reeds and roots. As night deepens, loud engines fade to frogs calling, insects buzzing, and 9-banded armadillos rustling through ditch lines in search of a late snack. They move like little walking helmets on legs, nosing along forest edges and lawns, digging fast with sharp claws to flip out beetles, worms and grubs. This species didn't originate here. it crept in from the south over the years, turning Armadillo on the Road into a new late-night sight for Ozark drivers. The shell isn't metal, but it helps block bites and scratches, and when startled, these animals can jump straight up, a funny move that sadly doesn't mix well with bumpers and headlights. Most people see the clues before they see the animal. Fresh little craters in campgrounds, yards, and soft shorelines where an armadillo has quietly tilled the soil for snacks. Past the busy lake, the water feels wilder, running clear over stones and under bluff overhangs in a protected stretch within the Ozark National Scenic Riverways. Here the rivers don't just come from rain, they are fed by huge underground springs that burst out of caves and cliff bases like faucets turned on inside the hills. Cold, limestone-filtered water keeps the rivers clear, steady, and cool, turning them into ideal float routes for canoe trips, fishing camps, and riverside lodges. On calm evenings, mayflies rise in brief swarms as delicate insects crawl from the river, unfold damp wings, and turn Ozark rivers into floating buffets for trout and diving birds. Most of their lives are spent hidden on the river bottom as small nymphs, scraping algae from rocks and quietly loading up energy for one fast, risky night in the air. As adults, they barely eat at all. Their whole mission is simple: find a partner, mate over the water, drop eggs back into the current, and then fade out. Along river roads, mayflies pile up on signs, windshields and bridge railings, while bats and owls hunt through the same glow like it's an all-you-can-eat flying snack bar. Far to the west, beyond these forested rivers, the plains of New Mexico hold a very different sight altogether. A near-perfect volcanic cone called Capulin Volcano National Monument. This cone grew out of explosive blasts that sprayed cinders, lava, and ash across the grassland, then cooled into one neat pile of dark rock in the middle of the prairie. A narrow paved road curls up the slope, so in a single visit you can stand on the rim, look out across 4 states, and then walk down into the crater itself. All around it, low hills and dark ridges mark more old vents, part of a broad volcanic field, with more than 100 cones and fissures that once punched fire through the region. Capulin is a perfect starter volcano, but the Grand Canyon in Arizona is the advanced course, where the ground opens to show layer after layer of rock history. At the bottom, the Colorado River has sliced into rock almost unimaginably old, yet from the rim it looks like a thin ribbon that somehow did all this work. Each colour band on the walls marks a different world. Shallow seas, sandy deserts, coastal plains, and muddy shorelines all stacked, then sliced open by that same river. Rock falls, flash floods, and winter ice keep chewing at the edges, turning what could have been a simple valley into a crazy maze of towers, ledges, and side canyons. Long before park signs, native families read shapes in those walls, seeing animals and powerful beings in the cliffs and buttes that frame the Colorado far below. Once highways and rail trips west boomed, the canyon became a must-see stop, and strings of lodges, trading posts, and desert diners sprang up around the promise of, "Come look into the biggest hole you'll ever see." Down on the water, the river is still at work, carrying sand, tossing rafts through rapids, and feeding rare fish and small spring-fed gardens tucked into cracks in the stone. Up on the rim, calm mornings can flip fast as summer storms roll in, turning sunlit overlooks into blasts of thunder, lightning, and sharp wind that catch unprepared hikers out on the edge. Each viewpoint tells its own version. Some focus on the tight inner gorge and the thin green riverline. Others explode into stacked cliffs that lean and fold like a pile of giant broken books. And just when you think you know the canyon, it shifts again, rising into cooler air and thicker forest on a higher, quieter perch called the North Rim. Up here, tall pines and aspen crowd the plateau, where mule deer, elk and even mountain lions move close to the same overlooks road trippers reach at sunrise. The long drive in works like a slow magic trick, turning hot desert into cool shade and making the rim a summer escape for road travellers chasing relief and big views. Old car routes and narrow park roads funneled visitors to one cliff-edge lodge, and a few trails, keeping this side calmer and letting shy animals still cross the pavement at dusk. Calm or not, the rim can snap from gentle to dangerous, with lightning, sudden fog, and sheer drop-offs that have led to rescues, recoveries, and fatal falls from a single misstep. Rangers share stories of campers waking to bighorn sheep on the road, elk in the parking lot fog, and black bears roaming through picnic sites searching for forgotten snacks. While visitors watch the canyon, something else is often watching them from the rocks themselves, in the form of bold little locals that patrol walls and trails, the rock squirrels. Here, these chunky animals dash along ledges, pop out of cracks, and stand on 2 feet like tiny canyon guards checking who brought snacks. Years of car traffic and Route 66 style road trips have trained them well, so some now walk straight up to backpacks and strollers, demanding snacks like they run the viewpoint. Cute or not, those sharp teeth and fast moods mean they cause more painful bites than snakes here, turning a fun hand feed into blood, bandages, and a shocked family. From here, crowds pack historic lodges and giant overlooks, turning the South Rim into the classic "this is the Grand Canyon view" you see on almost every postcard. Cars, buses and shuttle loops pour in all day because this rim is easy to reach, open most of the year, and lined with paved paths that bring people to the edge in just a few steps. Old Route 66 road trips helped crown this as the main canyon stop, with motels, diners and tour buses across northern Arizona, all feeding visitors toward one goal: pull over, grab a photo, and say you've seen the real Grand Canyon. Compared to the cooler, quieter North Rim, This side feels wide and open, with balcony-like overlooks where the ground suddenly falls away into huge steps of red and orange rock. That same convenience can turn harsh fast, as rangers rush to help hikers who misjudge the heat, the steep drop in front of them, or the risk of one wrong step at a selfie spot. The constant flow of people reshapes local life, with elk strolling through lots, rock squirrels hustling the railings, and ravens watching for a single dropped fry that might start a feast. On busy evenings, the rim feels half city sidewalk, half cliff edge, as kids eat ice cream, storm clouds build, and shadows swallow whole side canyons in a matter of minutes. As all eyes stay locked on the glowing rock below, something much larger than any squirrel begins to circle overhead, riding columns of rising air, the California condor. These huge black shapes glide on warm air without flapping above the cliff edge, looking almost dinosaur-like up close, with bare heads, massive wings, and ID tags tracking their every move. Life is risky for these giants because poisoned scraps, power lines, and even bits of trash from canyon viewpoints can turn a simple meal into a slow, silent disaster. When one of these rare sky buses glides above the busiest rim on the Old Mother Road, it feels like nature crashing the road trip, showing the canyon is more than motels, gas pumps, and postcards. This is Route 66, a land of hidden wonders and remarkable architectural marvels. Now, if you don't want to miss the most unreal wonders of New Mexico, check out this video.